So everyone, I'm so excited. This is a new segment, GovCon for the now. This is all about government contracting to help you out so that you win profitable contracts. And today, I'm so excited as our first guest, we have Lashonda Bracey, who is not only a government contracting guru, but she is this amazing government contracting whisperer that you all need to make sure you tune in and you watch this and you connect with her, because the suggestions she's going to provide, I'm telling you now, you're not going to be disappointed. So welcome, Lashonda.
Thank you so much for having me, Kizzy. How are you this morning?
I'm doing
this afternoon.
I know.
Tonight. I don't know what time of day it is. I don't know where folks are in the world,
I know. It's like, it's crazy, right? It's a beautiful day. It's a glorious day. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I can't complain. So, I made today kind of self-date, not self-date, but kind of self-care. And on the second and fourth Sunday, I go get my nails and toes done. I know getting your hands and feet done is not self-care, but it's just something I like to do for myself.
It's definitely self-care. I think that's really important, especially given, many of the people who probably will tune in are spending every waking hour thinking like, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to get a government contract? I don't have time to do anything else. I'm teaching my kids. I'm taking care of my family. And now I have this whole government contracting business.
So what folks have to realize is take your time, work at your own pace. You don't need to be trying to work at the pace of your colleagues or someone else that's in the space. I've been in this space since 2007. I was doing state and local contracts before then. So the pace that I work in and what my capacity is to do multiple things may be very, very different from someone else. Like I can sit at the dining room table with 6 laptops up. Wow. Everybody can't do that. I realize everyone can't do that. So folks definitely need to start where they are. And the other thing is government contracting, to so many people, it just seems like it's hard and it's strenuous, but I liken it to being, remember when you had that class in college or in high school that was a weed out class? That's essentially what government contracting is. They have a weed out process because they want to identify the folks that are actually serious about doing business. And the way that they do that is making sure that you're registered properly.
Oh, that's such a great tip and such an awesome analogy. What does register properly mean?
So register properly means that you've got a EIN number. It means that you have a DUNS number. It means that you actually have gone into beta.sam.gov and registered your company and established a cage code. It means that you're an actual running, functioning business.
And so,
because go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, because I often get, in this new phenomenon that we have called Clubhouse, folks will get on and say, I want a government contract. I don't know what I should be selling. Well, then you might kind of not be ready yet. So you really need to identify what you're selling, who you need to be selling it to, because the thing is the federal government buys everything that's sold legally in the private sector, but they buy very differently. So you've got to identify who's buying what you're selling. You also can't say, oh, I want to sell to every agency, because that's unrealistic. Because if you really did your research and you identified all the agencies that we have, you would realize you can't sell to every agency. But that's a hard concept for small businesses who are not in that space to get.
And you highlight, I think, one of the biggest myths about government contracting, that you can just put out a website, or maybe you actually are registered, and then magically agencies are going to say, please we want to buy all these services. And reality,
good luck with that.
Good luck with that. I don't know. I mean, maybe if I don't know who you are, maybe it'll happen, but there's thousands of different agencies and
Right.
departments and agencies within different departments and agencies. And that doesn't even take in consideration those at a top secret level. So there's
Right.
so many layers that this misconception of like, I'm just going to sell is one that I think it's great that you brought up. And then number two about, well, I just want to get in there and start selling. Like, walk us through that, because I think that's the big thing. Like, oh, I just want to sell to the government. How does somebody like make that kind of work?
So again, you've got to be very clear and identify your goods and services or your products and services. I mean, and if you're new to this, then you're more than likely what's going to make sense is that you subcontract to a larger firm that's going to help you build some past performance, and that's going to also show you kind of their method or their way of doing things. That will give you some foundation, because you definitely want to start on good foundations. I also find that a lot of people win a government contract and they win it kind of like happenstance. Like they're working with a company and the agency doesn't want to work with that company anymore, but they still want to work with that person. So they'll bring them in as a 1099 or a corp to corp. But then when it's time when that contract is over, people don't know what to do because they hadn't walked through the steps all the way through. So they've never written a proposal. They don't understand the proposal process. They didn't have to search for that opportunity. So they don't understand the searching opportunity. They don't know how to look for opportunities because they won that one contract happenstance. And even if it's a 5-year contract, that's great. But what's the long game? What's your strategic plan? Where do you go next? If you were somewhere and the contract ends after 5 years, what are you going to do next? Like you should be planning and kind of considering that along the way. And the other thing that folks don't do is we've got so many people that are interested in government contracting, but they're interested in it thinking, oh, I want to get a government contract so I can work the contract. That should not be your mindset. Your mindset should be, again, to me, government contracting is like a glorified staffing company. You should be trying to be baby Raytheon or baby Booz Allen, where you've got individuals at locations doing the work that you are genius at. They understand how to do it too. And you're billing out for the hours that they're working on those projects. So that's one of those other misconceptions that people just don't get. So looking for and identifying opportunities is where I think people definitely need to start.
I think that's a great place to start, because you highlight another big myth, and that is, well, I got a contract, whether if it was subbed or however it came about. So clearly, I can do this, and then that mindset kind of kicks in, like, I don't even need them anymore. I don't need the prime. Right. The client loves me, so I'm just going to go out and create this amazing engine without realizing the business development, the capture, the resources spent on marketing, the connections, and all of that, and the strategic plan. Because the thing about government contracting, as you highlighted, it is glorified staffing for many of the services. On top of it, just because they want it today doesn't mean they want it tomorrow.
Exactly. And just because they've got funding for it today doesn't mean they're going to have funding for it tomorrow. So that's one of those other things. That's just like when we talk about certifications. Certifications are great, but certifications aren't going to get you a contract. And so many people fall under that guise too, that, oh, I'm certified in this, I got this, I got this, I got this. But guess what? When you're at a networking event and you're talking to decision makers, the worst thing that you can ever do is walk up to somebody and say, hi, I'm Lashonda, I'm a woman-owned small 8A Native American, blah, 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 hub zone, yada, yada, yada. So you've just spent your 30 seconds of your elevator pitch talking about all of these certs. I don't even know what you do. So you wasted that breath, and I may need to point you in the direction of somebody else. You haven't even told me what your services are. So that's one of those things that it makes me cringe. And I've had this conversation with contracting officers, and they're like, I don't understand why people do this. Because again, they think that that certification is going to open up the world. But again, the contracts are not just going to fall out the sky. So that's the other thing that folks have to realize. You got to put the work in.
You do. And I think that's an area where people, I think they don't really understand what that means. I think maybe they see or hear about somebody else that's like getting contracts. So can you unpack, like, what does it mean to put the work in?
So putting the work in, I would say, is definitely number one, networking and marketing to the right people. Number two, building and establishing relationships with those folks. Number three, getting your marketing materials out there, making sure your capability statement is tight. You can't have more than one capability statement. I mean, again, your capability statement is your resume for your business. So I know for me, I don't have just one resume. I have a chemistry and a biology degree, but I haven't done that in 10 years now. So I have a resume for the sciences. I have a resume for IT work that I've done. I have a resume or a curriculum vitae when I'm interested in being an adjunct professor. So really understanding the products and services that you sell, making sure you've got your capability statement, doing your research on the agency that you want to do business with, and kind of having a clear understanding of what they sell. Yes. And who's actually purchasing it. And then again, doing your research and find out who your competition, I don't have competition, I call them competimates, but find out who else is actually selling your products and services, engaging where their pricing is to make sure like you can still play in that space at a comparable pricing structure. Yeah. So being clear in that aspect, and then also identifying opportunities that you think you can win. But here's the thing, you are going to hear a lot of no's before you hear a yes. So don't just write a proposal and you don't win it, and then you just stop writing proposals. Because I see so many people do that too. Oh, I wrote 2 proposals last year and I didn't win them, so I'm not doing government contracting no more. Okay, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah. It takes way more than 2. I mean, I know some organizations that their goal is 100 a year.
Right, exactly. So at one point I had a goal of, just trying to write, because it's a numbers game, trying to write 10 proposals or submit to 10 proposals a month. Mm-hmm. If I've got a great writing team, then yeah, I'm going to win some and I'm going to lose some. But then there's also opportunities out there that are placed out a year before they're even granted. So one of those other misconceptions I get when I'm working with clients, I'm asked, so how long before I win a contract? That's subject to if whatever you're selling is needed right now, number one. It's also subject to if you've written a proposal properly. Did you follow all the instructions? If someone said to you, I need this proposal sent to me by mail, I need 5 copies of it, and you only sent them 3 copies because your printer ran out of ink, then they threw you out the box because you didn't follow directions. And when it comes to proposals, the government tells you exactly what they want. You have to convey it back to them, exactly what they want, how they want it, put your spin on it, how you're going to make it better, and go. So many people also put a whole lot of fluff in their proposals, mm-hmm. and that knocks them out the box. Because again, you can't be realistic. You can't do everything and you can't serve everybody. So again, doing that research, identifying who your competimates are, your competition, also identifying who what their pricing structure looks like, and kind of have your pricing structure together. And when it comes to foundations, if you know you're going to be writing a whole lot of proposals, it makes sense to have a template in place. Now, everything is not going to be cookie cutter, but whenever you have a proposal, you've got to have a cover page. You've got to have, that information in the middle. You definitely need to make sure you understand section C, M, and L in the proposal, because those are the things you're going to be focusing on the most. So just have that kind of templated out. And then when you look at a statement of work or a request for quote or whatever the case you're looking at, then it's not as stressful and strenuous if you've got some of that stuff done, as well as having your pricing in order.
Yeah.
So I think I've said enough.
No, this is great. And I know one of the tips that I use is I'll just go on the GSA website, because you can download your competimate's pricing.
Exactly.
And it doesn't mean they're necessarily using that pricing, but at least you have an idea, because you take a labor category such as admin, right? Mm-hmm. There are some agencies where they're paying maybe in the $20 range for an admin.
Right.
There are other agencies that will pay in the $50 range.
Right. So and then you look at your admin level 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Right. And so it's a great way to be aware, so that you're not missing the target because of lack of information.
And I think here's something else that small businesses don't think about. But when you're submitting a proposal, especially if it's something that is a 1 year with 4 options, like you increase your pricing every year by 1 to 3%. So you don't send in your proposal with that price of $100,000 and that's what you're going to get for the next 5 years. You have to be strategic about your price increases as well, and taking care of your people. So that's the other thing I like to stress to folks when they do win contracts and you've got butts and seats at an agency. Make sure that you're going to check on your people and make sure you know who they're communicating and how they're representing your company.
Yes, I've come across a lot of companies that don't really understand the client relations part. The client relations not only with the agency, but also with their team. They think, okay, moving on to the next one, won the contract, moving on to the next one, moving on to the next one. And they forget that the butts and seats are those that represent their company. And if they're unsatisfied or disgruntled, the agency is going to hear. Or if they're really happy and excited, the agency is going to hear. So what are some tips to make sure that the check-in? What do you recommend to those that you work with to help with, this checking in with their team?
So for me, when I'm at an agency and I've got several people there, I want to make sure that I'm at least going to the agency and I'm checking on my people once a month. Okay. And then also providing incentives to my people. So, hey, I heard you guys did a great job on ... Here are some Starbucks gift cards. Hey, let's do we can't do it now because of the state of affairs, but hey, let's do a teaming happy hour. Hey, I need everybody on the team to shut down on Friday at 1:00. You're done. I'm giving you a bonus of 4 hours. So again, just really making sure you're taking care of your team. If you've got a complete remote team, giving them a little leeway in that. So for me, I don't need to, as long as the work is getting done, I don't care how it's getting done. I'm not clocking your every single move.
Right.
I can't. Like, I'm working with an adult. You're an adult. You should be doing your job. Trust me, if you're not doing your job, I'm going to find out about it.
You will.
Yeah. So those are some of the things that I do.
I think those are great tips. I mean, showing the recognition by you praising them, providing the reward with the gift cards, just having that open channel of communication is vital, because sometimes it's easy, even with the current state of the world, to forget that they need to back channel to you. And then they're so focused on, being this FTE with a government agency, that is kind of challenging because they're kind of there caught in the middle. What are some of your what is like the biggest thing that you have run into with your clients where you're like, oh my gosh, I wish that they would stop doing this?
So a client right now is driving me crazy with, you got to be logged on to Teams. You got to be logged on to Teams. Well, I'm logged on. You can see I'm logged on. I'm behind the network. I'm behind the firewall. I'm sending you emails, but you're not on Teams. That's one of my biggest pet peeves right now. Okay, so I don't have Teams on because I don't want to be distracted every 15 minutes by my laptop pinging. But I mean, it's just one of their rules. So this particular client, it's their rules. So, hey, it is what it is.
It is. And it's, it's got to be challenging to set those boundaries,
right.
Especially with technology, because, there are people in agencies that love Teams, and then there are those that just don't want to use any of it. And so that's the other kind of myth around government contracting, is that what works with the Army applies to the Navy, and that applies to FDA, and that applies to Department of Justice. And I think there's this mindset of it's all blanket, all the same.
And it's not even when I'm glad you mentioned that, because even when you get paid by the government, it's very different depending on the agency that you are working with. So I've had to submit invoices through the Treasury online data system, something. I've had to submit invoices by just mailing them in. I've had to submit invoices just by emailing them. So even how you get paid is different. So again, every agency operates a little different. So you want to find your sweet spot. You get in an agency, and maybe you have multiple contracts at that agency, or the 4 or 5 agencies that you're interested in doing business with. And then just kind of stay in that space. Because the other thing is, if you're doing a good job, the agency is going to say, hey, can you do this? You're going to say yes, because you typically don't want to say no. And then you're going to find somebody to do it. So yeah, folks definitely have to think outside of the box and be willing to challenge your team, and also be willing to challenge yourself. If you've got, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you've got money blocks, then don't look at multi-million dollar level contracts yet. But if you don't, go for it,
Yes. Yeah. And I think for some, the mindset is, they asked us if we could do this additional work. I'm just gonna have to figure it out because I don't want to lose any money. So I don't really know if I want to bring anybody else in.
But the thing is, in order to make money, you have to spend money. And why not continue to work in your genius and let someone else do that work and you still make money? Because $10 per head is better than $0 because you didn't accept the work, right?
Right, it is. It definitely is. It's way better than zero. And then what if they don't know what their genius is? What if they're unfamiliar with that entire concept of working in my genius? Maybe they think, well, my genius is I'm going to sell to the government.
Then you got some self-work to do. But selling what? How, and how are you going to grow your team and grow yourself? So those are things that I think folks definitely really have to look at and evaluate when you're going into the government contracting space.
Yeah, they definitely do. They definitely do. And I would like to also explore, before we kind of come to a close, and I definitely would love to have you back, because this is the information that's needed. Because I think too many organizations that are out there, they have a good intention of, we want to help small businesses, we want to paint things as pink rainbows and clouds, and that's great because you need hope and you need encouragement. But at the same time, you also need to know how things really operate so that you don't submit 2 proposals, you make 2 phone calls, and you're deaded out of your mind and you say, screw this government contracting, I'm out. So, right, because it's hard. And it is hard. Like if it was easy, then everybody would do it.
Exactly.
Everyone would do it. So talk to us about this, like, instead of competitors, instead of, those other people that are out there, you have this special term that you refer to for your competitors. Talk to us about that.
So competitive mates are, again, individuals who are in the same space that you're in, but maybe you work in, so I own an IT training company. Okay. So one of my competitive mates is also an IT training company, but they also have a heavy footprint in the media space. So if I need to do training, why not partner with them because they're great at media and allow them to do the recordings for me? And we have a subcontracting agreement or a teaming agreement. Instead of me trying to go out and find a crew, somebody that's good, somebody I've never worked with, to do those recordings, when that other my competitive mate can do that part of the work for me. And then we all win. Or if I'm in the training space, so if I'm designing, developing training, and I've set the blueprint for that training, or we've designed and developed the curriculum, why not allow my competitive mate, because they've got a team on staff already, to create it on that online platform for me?
Yeah.
Or if they've got a team of instructional designers, or if they've got a team of facilitators, I have the contract, we've got the content, I need you to bring me 10 trainers. Why not work together instead of stressing yourself out?
Yeah, I mean, I concur. I mean, partnerships can work really, really well. There are some safeguards that should always be in place, teaming agreement, NDAs, things of that nature. But it goes back to your remark of, do you want $0 or $10 or $7? I mean, if you want 0, that's fine, but at least something, I believe, is better than nothing.
Exactly. And it's like we can all eat.
Yeah. Yeah, we can all eat. And do you have any, I would love to know, like, any kind of parting words or things that you wish small businesses would start doing, that maybe a couple do, but you wish more would really start doing?
I do. One of the first things is, again, you've got to be out networking with folks. And remember, the government contractors and decision makers typically network, and they're networking in between the 9 to 5 space. So recognize going to a networking event at 7 or 8 o'clock at night is not going to put you in the space of a government contracting person. So making sure you're networking and you're networking properly and you're identifying who the decision makers are is one big thing for me, because just going to Fed Biz Ops and bidding on stuff blindly is not a smart move. The other thing is definitely follow up, because your fortune is in your follow up. So if an agency or someone tells you, please communicate with me this way, communicate with that person the way they want to be communicated with. So I have a point of contact at Department of Homeland Security. And when you send her an email, she wants your NAICS code, your business name, your phone number, and then your small business set-asides, all in the subject line. But that's her mechanism, and that's her way to search for folks. So when someone comes down to her office and says, hey, I need 8A companies that provide this service, she can just run a search from emails that she's gotten, put in 8A first, and then put in NAICS code, and she can pull all those people up. So be willing to communicate with people the way they ask you to, and follow their directions, because it's also going to help you in the long run. So those are my 2 biggest: making sure you're networking properly and following up and getting in front of folks.
I appreciate that because it's key. You know, you gotta find your tribe out there, and those are good suggestions. You gotta make sure you focus on that follow-up, and lastly, follow directions. If they ask you to do that, then if they ask you to put that kind of information in the email, you might as well get used to doing it now, because when you get to the point where you're responding to proposals, you're going to have to follow the font requirement, the spacing,
Exactly.
things of that nature. And
age number.
Yes, age numbers. And where can people find you, Lashonda, online? Where would you love people to connect with you?
So you can find me at LashondaBracey.com, on LinkedIn. On Instagram, it's lboogie0006, and on Twitter, it's Lashonda Bracey, and on Facebook, it's Lashonda Bracey.
And then you're also killing it on Clubhouse. How can they connect with you there?
So on Clubhouse, I am GovCon girl, but if you do a search for Lashonda Bracey, I'm there as well.
Well, I am so grateful to you, Miss Lashonda. You are truly a GovCon guru, and I know that those who have watched are walking away thinking, okay, I could take a breath. It's a process. I'm not just going to roll into riches tomorrow. And you've provided tips.
The one great thing is it is hard, but it's doable. One other thing I wanted to mention for folks out there is every month, for the next 6 months, I'm running a free 14-day government contracting challenge to make sure you get that foundational stuff that you actually need. So I go live every day at like 2:00. You have assignments to do every day. So I'm making sure you're registered properly. We're identifying the right NAICS codes you should be using. I'm also making you identify 5 companies you should be subcontracting with, and making you understand that process. And then also identifying the agencies you should be doing business with and helping you with your capability statement. So again, that's running every month for the next 6 or 7 months, I think, is in my strategic plan. So
that is awesome.
I just want more of us to win.
Yes, I agree. More of us to win. And I believe they can connect with you to sign up for that on Instagram.
Yeah, you can click. You can go into my link tree. The bio is on Instagram. And then the link to that 14-day challenge is bit.ly/GovCon girl.
Awesome. And I'll provide the information too, so that it's easily accessible. And again, thank you so much. You're so amazing, Lashonda.
Thank you so much for having me, Kizzy. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.